Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, discussing live episode 5 of the anime series, Princess Principal, which I really thoroughly enjoyed once again. It was another decent episode. I wouldn't say it was probably as stellar as some of the previous episodes in the series thus far, but it was still enjoyable. I've seen enough Star Wars to kind of see where this was going by the end, the whole sort of paternal complex that was going on there, the introduction of the character of Chise, which was a little bit sort of strange from the get-go because of course she was already part of the group in the previous episode and then she debuts in this episode. I'm wondering what is with the structuring of this series, if there is any sort of rhyme or reason to it, or they're just sort of doling out these things, these chapters if you will, sort of episodically. I feel like there might be a little bit here and there, a tip of the hat to something getting revealed little by little as we go along with each episode. But I really didn't necessarily pick up on any particular threads by the end of this episode to suggest as to why they are sort of shuffling, the episodes around, the timeline around, the continuity. And it was one of those things where until you finally get the other leg dropping by the end of the episode, I'm almost waiting for Chise to be like, "My name is Jessica Montoya. You killed my father. Now prepare to die." Like something like that. And then, like I say, it was kind of akin to Star Wars, where unlike Luke and Vader, Luke saw the good in his father and everything like that. Spoiler warning. Yeah. But I mean, she didn't really feel that way, and at the same time, she still felt the emotional impact by the end, having to duel with her father, this assassin who had betrayed her people in a sense. And I guess it was up to her, she was honor bound for that duty to go after her own father and stop him from killing this official, this lord, and everything like that. And the sort of clash of cultures was interesting in this environment, this kingdom environment, welcoming in Japanese delegates for all intents and purposes, very samurai and sort of beholden to these more archaic, sort of societal norms as we see it. It's kind of like fish out of water syndrome reversed, because everyone that's sort of welcoming these people in is kind of taken aback by, they're the ones who do the harakiri and everything like that, commit suicide. And they just seem backwards in a sense to the more posh society, the society folk that are surrounding, this whole affair. But they are welcomed in by, Princess and everyone, as is their duty in this particular frame of reference. And so it was pretty cool. Like when Chise first shows up, I thought maybe she was just hopping on this train to run interference in case there was an assassin already on board or something like that. And we saw there was a mole on board the train, posing as one of the guards, and but it was not actually the guy that they're waiting for, Chise's father and everything. And there's that fallout at first between Ange and Chise and everything like that, and that was, again, it kind of mixed me up a little bit. I was just kind of having to figure out, oh, wait a minute, is she already part of the team? No, she's not. And this is their introduction, even though she was part of the team in the last episode, and stuff like that. So even though she was part of the team in the last episode, where it would have felt probably a little more natural if we had gotten this episode first, seeing her debut, because there is still that, sort of minced words with Chise and the rest of the girls having to sort of gain their trust and vice versa at the ball and everything that was going on in the previous episode. While Ange was sneaking around and trying to get that device and whatever like that. I mean, this is the birthing of her being a part of this group in this episode. And so it was just interesting seeing them figuring that out, even though we're already sort of loosely accustomed to seeing her being part of the group, going back to the first episode, going back to the previous episode. And so even now that she is, there's a lot of time spent between she and Ange, where Ange is trying to sort of gain her trust and everything, kind of like what she did with Beatrice in the previous episode. And speaking of Beatrice, that one point where, Chise's father goes to like behead her, and because she's got that thing in her throat, that the vocoder or whatever it is that her mad scientist father implanted in her neck and everything, she would have been a goner. She would have, her head would have gone rolling and tumbling away had it not been for that device. And that gobsmacked me. And then, as I say, just the other leg dropping of all the emotions, the torrential flooding emotions that Chise felt by the end. She had that pseudo magical, you know, incantation to try to not feel any sort of pain or anything like that. She seemingly, you know, heals the knee of a young boy who had fallen or whatever it was. And so there's that really interesting otherworldliness about her, spiritualness, I guess you could say, where she reacts to, you know, Anja's Black Lizard Planet terminology like it's perfectly normal. Like she perfectly, you know, perceives what that means. Like it has some significance. You know, it's not just some crazy ramblings. And even Anja's like, wait, what? You know what I'm talking about? Celestials and all this stuff. And you know, they're close to the gods, and then you can even find them in the latrine. You know, sure. That's one of the best Zen places to be. You're sitting on the toilet, just home, home, you know. And sure, she's a, you know, whatever. You wield a sword, you're a badass. I'm not gonna talk back to you at all for fear of losing my own bowels, you know. In more ways than one, with the slice across the belly. And so, I mean, this episode, it was a fun episode. I love the characters. I like seeing them, how they were brought together. I'm just kind of perplexed as to why they're doling it out the way they are. Is there some significance to it? Was this the way it was characterized or put into chapters in the source material? You know, that kind of thing. I really don't know. It just seems a little bit strange that there is no sort of fluid continuity, but it's not necessarily a problem once you sort of wrap your mind around that. Oh, okay, this is where she first, you know, was introduced to the group, and at first they were at odds, but then she becomes part of the group, and then the previous episode she was part of the group, but she was still kind of not trustworthy of them yet. You know, there had to be a lot of earning of the trust and everything like that. Once you get that sort of fixated in your mind, it's perfectly fine. You know, so I mean, it was just an enjoyable episode with that minor sort of gripe of, okay, what's with the continuity, but nothing to lose sleep over, really, because the stories themselves, each episode after episode, is pretty enjoyable, and it's just a matter of wondering what the next sort of bigger picture is going to be, where this is all leading, where it's going to, what the culmination and end game will eventually be. As one of my friends was talking to me back and forth in the comments on some of my previous videos, speculating, you know, could it be like a fallout with these characters? Maybe Anj turns against the team, or vice versa, or there's a mole in the group, or something like that. And you never really know, because these are all of these girls, all of this main cast are spies, and they're all, you know, dealing with their respective spy sort of HQs and, you know, different factors and factions there, and so you never know who exactly to trust, no holds barred. And it could be quite compelling if they've earned the trust of each other and they're becoming a fluid unit, and then come to find, oh well, one of us has not been so truthful and has just been pulling the wool over our eyes kind of scenario playing out. It could be interesting. But I thought the episode was enjoyable, and if a little predictable. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 5 of Princess Principal, if you've seen it as well, if you agree with me that it was a little bit predictable, if you were, you know, getting those Princess Bride vibes, like, is she gonna kill her father's assassin? Because there's that whole, again, referencing back to Star Wars, oh, this assassin killed my father. Well, from a certain point of view anyway, you know, according to Chise. And yeah, love to hear from you. Otherwise, it'll be pretty much it from me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.